Well, again, thanks for allowing me this project, because Jeff, you've been great, Chief. Chief, thanks again, too. Thank you for the photo that came off of your website. So, I wanted to make it somewhat. So, Chief Sharp tasked me with the peak demand medic to look and see if we can get data to support whether Truro Township should implement this program. I don't know if it's going to go in exactly like Columbus has, pseudo, hybrid, anything in between. So, as we know, patient care is and always will be the department's highest priority, so we know that's going to be the number one thing and what we're looking at, which I'm assuming with this whole project. So as we move forward with it, when I sat in on the meeting, this is where the numbers came from. We talked about the reimbursement. We sat in with your reimbursement people. They said, $295 on average for transport. So that's what I was basing a lot of stuff on. We know it can go up, down with some things. So let's try to work. Your average transport a shift, you're doing about 10 transports a shift. I'll show you on the spreadsheet. It actually, when I show you on the sheet what I did, instead of trying to look at the whole year, because every single run is on the spreadsheet, I had to take out the medics and then look at the transports. And actually the average is like 9.25 a shift. But if you go with 10 with the 295, your average reimbursement's just under $3,000 per shift. And that's running 2 medics at this time. So you also got an agreement with Anthem, and I believe it's like $350 for EMS non-transports. Your engine companies are completing those and doing that, which is going to help bring money in. But I don't know if this would be something to consider going, hey, if we got this peak demand medic, maybe they can go do that and get the $350, which is freeing up the engine to make sure they're ready to go for any fire alarms or anything of that sort to keep them in service. Your cost of adding, you got the vehicle, the equipment, and the part-time firefighters. Talking to Lieutenant Brooks, found out you guys already have the vehicle and you already have the equipment. So that's a bonus for you guys that helps. So when we were talking, came down to, if we staff this with part-time firefighters, we looked at the $14 an hour I came up with salaries and benefits. It was about $14 an hour, times 24 hours, times 2 firefighters to run it. You got $672 in cost for a shift if you have 2 part-timers on that vehicle. So when I did that, so the estimated cost, is to run it $672 for that. So needed to break even, you would need a minimum of 2 transports a shift for that vehicle to break even for your reimbursements. Again, I don't know if we'd be using them on the EMS non-transport side to help with some of that reimbursement. That would be a decision how you guys would want to run with this. But when we look at 2017 runs for Medic 161, Medic 162, on average, the township has been, with both medics tied up at the same time, is only on about an average of 10 times a week. And I'll show you on a spreadsheet how I came up with that and where we were at. And what was interesting when we looked at the spreadsheet too, the average transports a day between both stations, and I even took in even the outside medics coming in, the average transport's about 10 a day for everybody coming into Truro Township. So, but the one thing, I couldn't find any correlation to time of day of week, anything where there's a consistency that we could show, so we could try to go, okay, let's just put this in on Mondays and try it on Mondays. Let's put it in, or let's put it in the evenings, put it in the mornings. Try to figure out where there was no rhyme to reason, tit, miss, no day of the week, time of year that I could find. As more reimbursement agreements for EMS non-transports are obtained, you could, like I said, consider using the peak demand medic to be part of that project. I know he said we got Anthem. I'm sure as this gets rolling, as we're into this new healthcare system, things will keep evolving. And we're looking at sustainability, the growth and demand, your stagnant, we're looking at burnout compassion, the dilution. So we want to keep everything healthy in your system, keep everybody positive. And then, we just look at some terms, some meanings, the things that you guys already know. I just threw those in there. Continuous, you get your CQI, your officers, your paramedics, which are peak demand, medics, all ALS staff transport vehicles for high demand calls for services. So that's what we're hoping for. And then, but I got questions, but what I want to show you guys first are these spreadsheets. So on this first one here, what I ended up doing, as we looked through all these colors, I separated everything out by days, and the red is showing where the overlap, where both medics or another medic vehicle came into your district. So and I broke it down, and I went through this and broke it down by weeks and stuff like that. So like here, when we get to 4, it was only 4 times that both vehicles were tied up. But it doesn't really show on this spreadsheet how many transports. It's just showing you how many times both were tied up that somebody else could have came in, or there was somebody else coming into the district to do a run into Truro Township. So that's how I came up with your average or your year-to-date was 218 times up to the end of November. And this was from the spreadsheet that Captain Higgins gave me, which just showed Medic 162 and Medic 161 and anybody else, but it really didn't give me who did what, transports. So I had to kind of look at times and try to see if there was an overlap. And anytime there was an overlap, that was the time that they were out, or anytime there was a medic that was dispatched in, that was put only 218 times did that happen. That both were tied up. So when we go to the other spreadsheet, this one here, I made a bunch of tabs, as you can see, to break it down by weeks and days. I started out where I wanted to look, since we had just got this last week, I was like, this was really good data because it showed every single run that Truro Township took. The engines, the medics, the chiefs, everybody, in or out of the district. So then what I ended up doing, I started with the first where I just took the last week of November and got those numbers. And then I went to every other month, the first day of the month, just to see if time of year would change and that kind of stuff. So what you see here is 8 transports, 11 transports, 13, 6, as you come in. So you kind of come in, and so what you get is your average transports are 9.25 transports. Transports done by other medics coming in the district, less than 4. So to look at that and figure out your numbers, go, is it worth, can you get that 2 runs a shift from those guys, since you already have your vehicles built in here that you don't have to add, that you can always use as a backup anyway. So those would be the decisions you guys would have to make as the chiefs. Like I said, when I go back to here, these are the dates. So it was 11/30. So this was the last week. No, like I said, I went every other month. And those are the numbers. So you had the very first one, you had 2 calls by other medics, then 4, 7. So we're not getting a whole lot coming in to the district. And then when you look at how many transports they're averaging, so it could be feasible with the 3 that they could pick it up, but are they going to get the transports? Is it going to hit just right when you get it? So, are there any questions I can answer that I can try to pull up on the other spreadsheet that they gave me?
Is there any way that on the ones that came in that did not transport, is there any way to find out that if they met the criteria for reimbursement, if they were an Anthem?
Based on call type, we might be able to, because on
like a diabetic or
yes,
shortness of breath or something like that.
So what we have is this the one? Oh, that's not the right one. Sorry about that. Back to trying to find what, the one that Jason just gave me. Yes. Come on, where you at? That's right. Yep, that's not right. Is that it? No, come on. This will drive me nuts. You get so many of these now. Right, wherever you at.
It'd probably be on your main one, wouldn't it? That shows all-
Should have been, cause I was messing with it last night, I
Yeah,
can't
one
find
you
that
showed me
one that
originally.
Jason gave me, and I'll look for it, but the problem with, the reason I had to cut and paste, cause his starts, I mean, it's got all this data coming across, for one, it shows you the run district, the call type, the time of day, dispatch time, transport to the hospital, so I gotta find that so you guys can see it, so, that's what got me. So capstone. Don't need that one, don't need that one. Yeah, that's that.
That was it there, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah.
Yes, thanks. That's it. Well, this one was from Captain Higgins. Yeah, that's what this one was. So his was a CAD response. So you get all these, but the other one, so this one didn't give me enough information, but the other one had everything. So if I could find that one.
Was the one that would show if it was a diabetic or shortness of breath
Yes.
that we saw earlier?
Oh yeah, here it is. So you look at this, so I can come. So you look at the top here, tells you your unit number, the date, response time like there, 1:36, and then 12 Truro Township. So we had a breathing problem EMS. It was at 7,059 Treeborn Drive for Reynoldsburg. Gives you the address, type, and so you get all this information here. And so you had engine medic 161 that went. What just happened? Did I lose it? I went all the way down to the bottom on that. So you get your dispatch and route. There's your on-scene time. There's to the hospital, so they transported at the hospital, back in service. And then you can see they got all this other stuff. So that's why I was trying to cut and paste. So you guys, I will definitely give you this, and I can sit down with whoever and we can try to go through this a little bit more intense to see. But it does give you the call type and times. But based on that, we might be able to try to, like you said, decide whether this is worth, you know, if I can get EMS non-transport reimbursement for these, based on the call type. Because like the next one's commercial, or the fire and a commercial structure. So this spreadsheet was really nice, but that's what when the other sheet that I showed you, I tried to just basically cut and paste just for a whole week at a time, who was dispatched, whether they transported or not, and that information.
To be reimbursed for the non-transport, that patient would have to be covered under the Anthem insurance, correct?
As of right now, correct?
Right.
Yes.
So, given that the majority of our reimbursements come through Medicaid and Medicare, that's probably a small number.
Correct.
The only way you're going to realize that is if you know the patient has Anthem.
Correct. And I don't know how we would even know.
So the only thing we could determine is the possible number of responses to a non-transported patient. We could determine that, but then we don't have the information to know if that would have been a reimbursable run or not, because we don't have their insurance
Correct.
information. So
Especially if we didn't transport.
we're basically guessing at that point.
Mhm.
And that, $640,
Yeah.
that was two medics, two part-time medics for a 24-hour shift. So in essence, if we did if we were looking to do a peak time and not an additional medic, then we could cut that number in half and look at one transport during their
Yes.
12-hour shift, let's say.
Because I would assume if I were to look at the data and I didn't go into trying to see on those transports, how many you're doing after 2,000 hours versus 08 to 20.
Mhm.
So, and maybe.
Based on
we could
your,
look-
the data and you going over the numbers and looking at the numbers, what would be your recommendation to us as far as implementing any additional shifts or manpower?
If it were me, with the way the data and things are showing, if you have the staffing of part-timers, I would implement, say, like a Monday through Friday, just try to see how it goes for the first 12 hours and try to track the data for at least a month and how that's showing and seeing if there's a trend and seeing if you're seeing anything. And then if you are, maybe you start adding in Saturday and Sunday. If we start seeing as we move forward, and if not, then we just go back to the way things have always been. But until we try, because I think those numbers, they're just not cut and dry right now on what we're seeing with a correlation. And if you were gonna put it in, I would put it here at 162. Because all the runs, I'm not gonna say all the runs, the majority of the runs are done out of here. They do more runs here than they do at 161.
And they do more transports as well?
Yes. Based on what I've seen in the spreadsheets for 2017.
Mhm.
Now, if we want, again, I can get with Jason. I forget how many years back. I think we can go like 4 or 5 years back, and we can try to pull all those years, get that same spreadsheet, and then cut all that other nonsense stuff out of the middle, and just look at who's doing what transports and try to determine that.
Sure.
If you want that. And again, like I said, even though the project, I'm done, I'm not done. I live here. This is still my community, so if we wanna need help, I'll help.
Great.
Appreciate it.
So,
Good job.
cool.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Very informative.
Thanks.